Hey everyone, so I'm Albert, and in this video we'll be discussing the end scene as well as the post-credit scene to Spider-Man Far From Home. Now, before we begin, I just wanted to mention that there will be spoilers in the film, and my thoughts on these two scenes in particular aren't in line with my thoughts for the rest of the film. I actually really enjoyed the film. It's just that the last two scenes I really didn't like, and I wanted to see what you guys thought as well. So at the end of the video, if you guys agree, disagree, please let me know in the comments below. So let's start with the end scene, just because chronologically that's what came first. So for the end scene, what we have is MJ and Peter Parker swinging around the city as like a date, I guess. And you know, this part not too bad. The big thing with this is that I just didn't like that I saw it in the trailer, because when I saw it in the trailer I knew that it was going to take place at the end of the film, and it was kind of a huge, not a huge spoiler, but it was kind of annoying in the sense that they would sort of put this scene in the trailer and then show it at the very end. It'd be one thing if MJ knew for the entire film who Spider-Man was, but it was kind of obvious when we saw that scene that, especially if you know what New York looks like at all, you knew that this would have to have been at the end of the movie, and that kind of just bothered me going into it because I knew it would happen at the very end. Similar thing with the reveal of MJ finding out, but that to a lesser degree is just that this scene in particular, kind of knowing that it would happen, takes away from the rest of the film, because there's the whole thing where Mysterio says he'll be killing Spider-Man's friends, and it doesn't really happen because you already know it's not going to happen, because MJ, at least for MJ, you know that she isn't going to die because she is in that ending scene, which you would have seen if you saw any of the trailers after probably the first one. But yeah, that part bothered me, and then on top of that, it was kind of mixed feelings for the very end, like last few seconds of this film, where we had J. Jonah Jameson pop up on the screen on one of the buildings in the city. And this is because it was very nostalgic, because I grew up with Tobey Maguire, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films, so I was very excited to see him, but the thing that he said was who exactly Peter Parker was, and after we had gone through the entire film, it seemed very apparent that they weren't going to have the reveal, have Peter come out and say, yes, I am Spider-Man, and really step into that role of an Avenger, someone who isn't hiding his identity anymore to the rest of the world, and to have that sort of pulled out from under you was kind of like, it seemed like it was done just to sort of be in your face and say, ha, we did it, we said we weren't going to do it, but we did it, and it kind of felt a little cheap, in my opinion. So, yeah, I mean, what I would have liked to see for that scene would have been the blackmailing of Mysterio being like, yes, yes, Spider-Man caused all of these incidents, and he was just going insane, and making the public turn against him. That I would have loved to see, because that would have made sense. And in that video, if I remember correctly, you don't even see Peter's face to begin with in the video that Mysterio shows. So the idea that Mysterio is just saying that this is Peter Parker and the entire world ends up believing him is just kind of annoying to me. But yeah, so that's sort of my thoughts for that scene in particular. But I did love seeing J. Jonah Jameson come back with the original actor who played him over, I think, a decade ago now. So yeah, that was very interesting. I really have mixed feelings about that. It's not that I hated the entire thing, but the reveal of Peter Parker's identity I really did not like. I thought it kind of just didn't make sense. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't even have to deal with it at the end of the next film because of how far apart these films are. It just wouldn't make sense for him to still be dealing with the ramifications of his identity being revealed several years down the line, because at that point he should be in college. If in the third film he's not in college yet, or he hasn't graduated, like, it's kind of ridiculous at that point, because yes, there's been like 5-year jump from the last film to this one. That makes sense because of Infinity War and Endgame. That makes sense because of those films. But just having him be a high school student yet again would be kind of ridiculous. And I think that would kind of be weird. So yeah, in the same vein, it doesn't make sense for him to still be dealing with those ramifications. It would make sense if his identity was revealed in the start of a film and then you have to deal with it throughout the film, but it just doesn't work if you do it at the end of the film, when the next film will be probably a couple years down the line. So yeah, it just didn't make sense, and it kind of just felt like a way to make you feel like shocked or whatever at the end of the film, to be like, oh wow, his identity was revealed, when in fact it doesn't really mean anything at all. And again, if they do at the next film, if they're still dealing with that, I call bullshit. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, those are my thoughts for the end credit scene right there. So yeah, now I guess we'll transition into the post credit scene. The post credit scene was a complete waste. First off, I think there are so many other things that they could have done leading into Phase 4. Instead of just talking about the existence of S.W.O.R.D. or hinting to the existence of S.W.O.R.D. And for those of you who don't know, Nick Fury being in space, things like that, it's the first Earth-based, it's the first organization led by Earth-based people that exists to watch the rest of the universe. S.H.I.E.L.D. wasn't really there for that purpose, and we had heard, I believe, in either previous films or within Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or within one other show, that S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't have a space-based organization, space-based branch, to watch extraterrestrial threats. So that was always a hint towards S.W.O.R.D. maybe popping up later on down the line. And yeah, it's cool that we're going to be seeing them, and it makes sense for the direction that the films seem to be taking, especially if you take into account some of the other films that we have coming up in the next couple years, like Thor 4, and a lot of the other more cosmic, crazier things that seem to be leaning further away from Earth in general. So because of that, yeah, it makes sense that they would hint at S.W.O.R.D., and that's not really the issue that I had with the post-credit scene. The issue that I had was Nick Fury and Maria Hill in the car, and then it not actually being them. I think it was a Skrull named Talos. I think that's what his name was. He was from Captain Marvel. And the main issue that I have here was, this is what went through my head when I saw those two. First off, I didn't know who they were to start off with. It took me a while to remember exactly who they were. They had to start talking before I realized who they were. But the issue was, they were talking as like Nick Fury and Maria Hill. Then you see their faces as Skrulls. And then my mind went directly to Secret Invasion, because I thought, oh my god, this is what they're going to lean into for the next huge event. A lot of the big characters are going to be replaced with Skrulls, and Secret Invasion is going to actually happen. All the decent Skrulls left the planet after Captain Marvel, so I didn't really see a reason to have them come back unless it was a Captain Marvel sequel. But yeah, so anyway, I thought, my mind went directly to Secret Invasion. I got super excited. Then they started talking, and I realized that they were the people from Captain Marvel, so that they weren't actual villains. And that just kind of pissed me off, because it was like, why would you waste my time with this? I didn't really care about these characters to begin with. from Captain Marvel. Like, the only important characters in that film were Captain Marvel and Nick Fury to begin with. And I guess the little girl that was Captain Marvel's like friend's child, because she's gonna be in either Vision or WandaVision or in the Doctor Strange film. I don't know which one. But apart from those characters, no one else in that film was important, so I didn't care to see them again. It was like, okay, they got to go travel, they got to leave Earth, whatever. And that was the end of their story. But having them come back and kind of trick me for a split second kind of pissed me off a little bit to begin with. And then not only that, it was basically just a way of saying, oh yeah, were you wondering why Nick Fury was dumb throughout the entire film? It's because he wasn't in the entire film. And that's just a complete cop-out. I would have been fine with it, with the explanation that Nick Fury was not around for the last 5 years, so he just doesn't know as much as he did. He doesn't have the same resources. And yes, Thor is off-world, Captain Marvel is unavailable. Things like that made sense, and just having this scene for absolutely no reason, just to make you be like, oh yeah, Nick Fury is just taking a break, he's in space, and he doesn't really care about what's going on Earth right now, so he just put two people who aren't nearly as capable as him in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. or in charge of pretending to be him, and sort of taking his role on Earth while he's on hiatus. It was a complete waste of time, and it was completely stupid. Yeah, it was. I understand it was meant to be like more of a, I guess, a funny scene to see a character that you probably thought you weren't going to see again, but I mean, honestly, it just pissed me off for whatever reason. And it just felt like a cop-out in terms of, oh yeah, Nick Fury is still as smart as he is, it's just that he wasn't actually in the film, and it's just a way of using Nick Fury without actually using Nick Fury. It's just stupid. And it was just a waste. It was just a waste of a scene. What I would have liked to see was something that actually foreshadowed something more important. Sword, fine. It's important, I guess. It's a huge organization, not nearly as interesting or as important as S.H.I.E.L.D. in any way or shape or form. And the only interesting character in that would pretty much be Captain Marvel for the most part. But even then, like, the series with those characters aren't particularly, like, well... They're for the most part, they're not as popular as some of the other series that exist. And you know, that's just my opinion. Also, like, those series just don't go on for that long. I believe there was a series that contained Captain Marvel and the rest of S.W.O.R.D. Traveling throughout the cosmos and sort of explaining the reworked Marvel landscape after Secret Wars, and that just didn't last very long to begin with. So it clearly isn't an extremely popular property. So I mean, I understand why Marvel would use it, because they've had success in the past bringing in those types of properties and making them as popular as they are. For example, Iron Man, Captain America, they weren't as popular as they are now 10 years ago. The popular characters were the X-Men, were the Fantastic Four, were Spiderman. Those were the popular characters out there. And Marvel just didn't have access to those, so they made lesser-known properties more popular. And yes, Marvel knows how to do that, and they'll do it very well. And I have no doubt they will do an amazing job with S.W.O.R.D. in whatever capacity they use it. But this post-credits scene should have shown what was really something to get excited about for the next chapter after Endgame, after the snap, after Tony Stark's death, after Captain America's retirement / old age, whatever he's doing now. He's passed on the mantle. So we should have seen something that related to the next phase that was going to get us more hyped for something down the line, and this just did not do it. And now we have to wait about another year, I believe, till Black Widow, to actually get a taste for what's coming up next in their next post-credit scene, if they do one. So yeah, I just thought it was a waste. What I would have liked to see was something either could have been very brief, and this could have been a super brief thing that would have exploded. Have either the Fantastic Four or Oscorp. So either the Baxter Building or Oscorp move into the Avengers Tower, which has now been sold. So you didn't even have to show that much. It could have just been in the background, or in that post-credit scene. You could have seen Norman Osborn walk in. You don't even have to see his face, and you see the forget what it's called, the mutagen that he uses for his experimentation. Or you could have seen the logo of Oscorp, or even just some guy in a limo being spoken to, and then you pan up to Oscorp, which is the now renovated and newly designed Stark Tower. That could have been amazing. Same thing if they did that with the Baxter Building. It would have made perfect sense as the new center of the MCU. The Baxter Building is now in existence. It would have just made a lot more sense, and a lot more people would have been more hyped. There would have been a lot more talk about what happened at the end of the post-credit scene of that film. So yeah, those are my thoughts of the end credit scene, or the post-credit scene, and the end scene of Spider-Man Homecoming. I just feel like it was a wasted opportunity, and they could have done a lot better. If you guys disagree, if you guys agree, please let me know in the comments, and I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the end scene as well as the end credit scene of Spider-Man Far From Home. I hope you guys enjoyed the film like I did. It's just I didn't really like those two scenes. But yeah, if you guys disagreed with what I said here, please let me know in the comments, and I'd love to read them and see what you guys think. So yeah, have a great day. Bye.